Hey guys, tonight we're diving into a truth most people never master: the art of acting as if nothing bothers you. And I don't mean pretending or hiding what you feel. I mean developing the kind of calm strength that makes people stop, notice, and respect you, because no storm outside can shake the fortress you've built inside. Let me ask you something. Have you ever watched someone stay perfectly calm while everyone else was losing control? Think of that one person in the room who doesn't shout, doesn't argue, doesn't flinch, and somehow, without saying a word, they command more respect than anyone else. That's not luck. That's not personality. That's a skill, and you can learn it. Now picture this: someone insults you in public, expecting you to fight back, but instead of reacting, you pause, breathe, and smile. Their power evaporates instantly. They expected your energy, but you gave them nothing. That's how strength feels when it comes from silence. And here's the paradox: the more you act as if nothing bothers you, the more people want your respect, your attention, even your approval. Calmness is magnetic. Detachment is dominance. Calmness isn't weakness, it's dominance, disguised as restraint. And tonight, I'm going to show you how the Stoics, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, Seneca mastered this timeless art in 7 powerful lessons. So before we begin, take a moment to settle in. Maybe dim the lights. Maybe let the hum of a fan fill the background. Give yourself permission to be here, fully, as we explore how to transform irritation into indifference, weakness into composure, and insults into fuel for wisdom. Now, dim the lights, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. Let's walk through the first Stoic lesson. 1. The power of detachment. Life is full of storms, small ones, big ones, daily irritations, major crises. Most people get tossed around by these storms like a fragile boat in the waves. Someone says something rude, and suddenly their entire mood collapses. A delay at the airport. They spiral into anger. One little comment from a stranger online, and they carry the insult for days. But here's the truth. The strongest people are not those who face fewer storms. The strongest are the ones who refuse to let storms control their peace. Detachment is that strength. What detachment really means? Let's be clear, detachment does not mean you don't care. It doesn't mean you're cold, numb, or robotic. True detachment means you care deeply, but you don't cling. You don't allow every outside event to dictate your inner state. Marcus Aurelius captured it perfectly. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Notice how simple yet radical that statement is. He didn't say, control the world. He didn't say, fix every injustice. He said, you have power over your mind. The rest, outside events, they're never fully yours. When you detach, you make a conscious decision. I will not hand over my peace to people or situations that do not deserve it. Why detachment commands? Respect. Imagine 2 people in the same situation. One gets insulted in public. Their face turns red. They lash back. Their voice shakes with anger. The other person hears the same insult, smiles calmly, and walks away. Which one seems stronger? Which one do you remember more? The calm person, always. That's because detachment signals power. Not just physical or verbal dominance, but inner power. And that's the kind of power people can't take away. Carl Jung once wrote, your vision will become clear only when you look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakes. Detachment is that awakening. It's realizing you don't need to wrestle with every noise outside of you. You anchor yourself inside, and the storms lose their grip. Detachment versus indifference. Now, some people confuse detachment with indifference. They think detachment means ignoring emotions, ignoring people, ignoring problems. That's not it. The detached person still feels emotions. They still care about people. They still face problems. But here's the difference: they don't let those emotions, people, or problems run their life. It's the difference between being in the storm and being the anchor in the storm. The waves crash, but you remain steady. And isn't it true that the people we admire most are those who remain unshaken? Think of a leader you respect, a mentor you look up to, a figure in history who left a lasting impression. Odds are, they weren't the ones who overreacted at every turn. They were the ones who moved with calm, quiet strength. Why detachment unsettles people? Here's a paradox. When you act unbothered, it unsettles people. Imagine someone hurling insults at you, waiting for you to react. But instead, you smile, stay silent, and walk away. They expected a fight. They wanted your energy. But you gave them nothing. Suddenly, they feel powerless. That's the secret. Detachment steals the weapon from their hands. They can't control you if you don't react. And in that moment, you've already won. Seneca put it beautifully. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. Think about it. Most insults and small provocations only hurt us because we replay them in our minds long after the moment has passed. Detachment ends that cycle. You don't let the insult live rent-free in your head. You drop it. And when you drop it, you drop the power it had over you. Detachment and failure. But detachment isn't just about handling insults or criticism. It's also about how you deal with failure. Most people treat failure as a personal verdict. I failed, therefore I am a failure. And that attachment crushes them. They never recover. The Stoic sees failure differently. Failure is not an identity. It's information. It's feedback. It's a teacher disguised as a setback. Detach from the story that failure means you're worthless. Attach instead to the truth. Failure means you're learning. And when you see it that way, failure sharpens you instead of breaking you. Detachment in everyday life. Let's bring it down to daily life. You're stuck in traffic. You can't move. You can either honk, curse, stress out, or you can detach. You can accept, this is outside my control. I can choose calm. You're waiting in a long line. Someone cuts in front of you. Do you explode, or do you remind yourself their behavior is theirs? My peace is mine. These moments may seem small, but they're training. Every act of detachment is a rep in the gym of the mind. And just like muscles, your inner strength grows with each rep. The magnetic presence of detachment. Have you noticed how people are drawn to those who seem untouchable? There's a mystery in someone who doesn't get rattled, who doesn't over-explain, who doesn't need to prove themselves. In a world addicted to noise, the one who stays silent stands out. In a culture of outrage, the one who remains calm becomes magnetic. People wonder, how does nothing seem to touch them? How do they stay so composed while others fall apart? That mystery becomes influence. That calmness becomes respect. That detachment becomes authority. The discipline of detachment. But let's be honest, detachment doesn't come naturally. It's not easy to let things slide. Our pride wants to defend itself. Our ego demands recognition. And yet, strength is not found in feeding the ego. Strength is found in resisting it. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Every moment of detachment is an act of training. Every pause instead of reaction is a brick in the fortress of your mind. Detachment is not a one-time decision. It's a daily practice. You build it in small moments, choosing silence instead of argument, patience instead of anger, peace instead of overthinking. Over time, it becomes who you are. Who do you want to be? Do you want to be the person who reacts to everything predictable, fragile, easy to control? Or do you want to be the person who remains calm, untouchable, magnetic? The choice is yours, and it begins with detachment. The world will never stop testing you. But when you detach, when you act as if nothing bothers you, you stop being controlled by the storms outside. You become the anchor. You become the calm in the chaos, and that's the first step to true strength. 2. Control your reactions. Picture this. You're walking down the street, minding your own business, when someone suddenly hurls an insult your way. Most people would snap back instantly. Anger would rise, words would fly, the moment would escalate. And hours later, they'd still be replaying it in their head. But imagine a different scenario. Same insult, same situation. Yet this time, you pause, you breathe, you smile, and you keep walking. Suddenly, the entire power dynamic flips. They expected you to react, but you didn't. They tried to pull your strings, but you stayed untouchable. That's the essence of Stoicism. Control your reactions, and you control your life. The hidden battlefield. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." That single line contains an entire philosophy. Most suffering doesn't come from what actually happens. It comes from our reaction to what happens. The comment itself doesn't ruin your day. Your replaying of it does. The traffic jam doesn't destroy your peace. Your anger about it does. The mistake you made last week doesn't define you. Your attachment to it does. The battlefield is always inside the mind, and the enemy is not the event, it's the reaction. Why reactions give away power. Think about it. Every time you react impulsively, you hand control over to someone else. They push a button, and you respond exactly as expected. In that moment, who's in charge, you or them? Epictetus captured it bluntly. Any person capable of angering you becomes your master. He can anger you only when you permit yourself to be disturbed by him. It's uncomfortable, but true. If a stranger's words can hijack your peace, then your peace belongs to them, not you. The Stoics' goal is freedom, and freedom is found in reclaiming your reactions. The power of the pause. Here's where discipline comes in between stimulus and response. There is always a gap. Most people never notice it. They live on autopilot, provoked, triggered, reactive. But that gap, that's your kingdom. That's the moment where strength is forged. Viktor Frankl, a modern Stoic soul who survived the horrors of the Holocaust, once said, "Between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response." In our response lies our growth and our freedom. The insult lands, the traffic stalls, the pressure rises. You feel the surge of emotion, and then you pause, just for a second. And in that pause, you take back control. Why reactions? Define your character. Reactions are habits of the soul. Each one shapes the person you're becoming. React with anger often enough, and you become an angry person. React with fear often enough, and you become a fearful person. React with calmness often enough, and you become calm itself. Your reactions are not just moments, they are training. They are identity building. Every time you choose patience over impulse, you add a brick to the fortress of your character. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you must build up your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible. Every action, every reaction is a piece of who you are. The illusion of strength, real strength. Most people think strength means fighting back, defending every point, proving yourself at every turn. But look closely. That's not strength. It's insecurity disguised as aggression. Real strength is calm. It's restraint. It's the ability to stay composed when others unravel. Think of a parent calming a child's tantrum. The child screams, throws things, lashes out. If the parent screams back, chaos multiplies. But if the parent stays calm, eventually the storm passes. The parent's composure is the anchor. Life is the same. The world throws tantrums every day. People insult, criticize, provoke. Strength is not joining the tantrum, it's remaining above it. Ancient wisdom on reaction. Seneca gave timeless advice. The greatest remedy for anger is delay. Delay your reaction, even for a moment, and anger starves. It loses its grip. Aristotle taught anybody can become angry, that is easy. But to be angry with the right person, to the right degree, at the right time, and in the right way, that is not easy. Control of reaction is not about never feeling anger. It's about directing it wisely, about pausing long enough to decide, does this deserve my energy or not? Most of the time, the answer is no. Reactions in daily life. Let's take some modern examples. At work, a colleague criticizes your idea in front of others. The easy reaction. Defend yourself instantly, argue, feel embarrassed. The Stoic reaction. Listen, pause, respond calmly if needed, or let silence speak. The result, you keep your authority. In relationships, your partner snaps at you after a stressful day. The easy reaction, snap back. The Stoic reaction, pause, recognize it's not about you, offer calm instead of fire. The result, the argument dissolves before it begins. Online, a stranger leaves a hateful comment on your post. The easy reaction, fire back or stew over it all night. The Stoic reaction, smile, scroll on. Why? Because their words only have power if you grant it. In every case, the difference is reaction. And reaction is always a choice, training the mind to respond, not react. How do you build this discipline? Like any muscle, you train it daily. Micro pauses. Start small. When annoyed, pause 1 second before reacting. Over time, expand that pause. Breathing, use your breath as an anchor. Inhale, exhale. Respond only after. Questions ask, will this matter in 10 days, 10 years? Most of the time, it won't. Detachment practice. Visualize the event as something external, like waves hitting a rock. Remind yourself this cannot touch my inner fortress unless I allow it. Each small act of control is training. Each pause is a rep. Each moment of patience builds resilience for bigger challenges. Why this makes you magnetic. People notice composure. They may not comment on it, but they feel it. The calm person in the heated meeting. The one who doesn't flinch during an argument. The one who smiles instead of shouting. These people command respect without ever demanding it. Because in a world addicted to overreaction, calmness is rare, and rarity is power. Plato once said the first and best victory is to conquer self. When you conquer your reactions, you become untouchable. Others can try to provoke you, but they quickly learn it doesn't work, and in that, they respect you. So ask yourself, who owns your reactions right now? Do strangers, critics, and inconveniences dictate your emotions? Or do you hold that power yourself? The truth is, the world will always throw chaos your way. You can't control that, but you can always control how you respond. And in that choice lies your freedom. Remember this, every reaction is a message. Either it says, I am controlled by the world, or it says, I am in control of myself. The choice is yours. Choose wisely. 3. Silence as a weapon. Have you ever noticed how uncomfortable silence makes people think about the last time you sat in a room where no one was speaking? Someone always rushes to fill the space with words, with explanations, with noise. Silence unsettles people. But here's the secret when you learn to embrace it. Silence becomes one of the most powerful weapons you can carry. The loudest voice versus the strongest presence. We live in a culture that equates noise with strength. The louder you shout, the more powerful you must be. The more you argue, the more serious you must be. But look closer. The loudest voice rarely holds the most power. The strongest presence is often the quietest one. Why? Because silence signals mastery. It says, I don't need to prove myself to you. Think of a courtroom. The lawyer who objects to everything, who shouts at every detail, looks frantic. But the lawyer who stays quiet until the exact right moment and then speaks commands the room. Silence makes their words heavier, sharper, undeniable. The same is true in life. Why silence disarms others. Imagine someone insults you in public. The expected response is outrage, defensiveness, argument. That's the script most people follow. But if you break the script, if you simply stay silent, maybe even smile, something strange happens. The other person becomes unsettled. Their words hang in the air, unanswered. Instead of making you look weak, your silence makes them look foolish. They lose balance. It's almost like martial arts. Instead of meeting force with force, you let their own energy defeat them. They expected resistance, they found stillness, and that stillness is devastating. Seneca once said the greatest remedy for anger is delay, but silence takes it further. Silence isn't just delay, it's a refusal to engage in a battle not worth fighting. Silence protects your power. Every time you speak, you reveal a little of yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, your insecurities. But when you remain silent, you reveal nothing. People have no leverage over you because they don't know what moves you. This is why silence is so magnetic. It creates mystery, and mystery draws people in. Carl Jung observed, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But if you don't react, if you remain silent, you force the other person to reveal themselves. While you stay untouched, silence is not emptiness, it's strategy. Silence and self-mastery. Aristotle taught knowing yourself is the beginning of all wisdom, and silence is one of the fastest paths to self-knowledge. Why? Because when you are quiet, you can finally hear what's going on inside you. Most people drown in noise. They talk so much they never examine their own thought. But when you embrace silence, you start to notice patterns. You notice what angers you, what fears haunt you, what wounds still ache. Silence becomes a mirror, and the Stoic knows the more you see yourself clearly, the less power others have over you. The silence that commands respect. Think about the leaders who have truly commanded respect. They weren't the ones arguing in every meeting or tweeting every thought. They were the ones who spoke rarely, but with weight. A general who pauses before giving orders. A mentor who listens more than he speaks. A figure in history whose silence carried more force than 1,000 speeches. Even Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, ruled an empire yet spent his quiet hours journaling, not shouting. His power was magnified by his restraint. Silence, used wisely, is not weakness. It is authority. Silence in relationships. This doesn't just apply to public life. It applies to our relationships too. How many arguments spiral out of control because both sides refuse to stop talking? Words pile on words, voices rise, and nothing gets solved. But what if, instead of matching volume with volume, you practiced silence? What if you let the other person speak while you listened? Suddenly, the energy shifts. Instead of a battle of egos, you create space for understanding. Silence is not surrender. It's control. Control of yourself, and often control of the situation. Silence in the modern world. We live in a time where everyone feels the need to comment, to post, to respond instantly. Silence is rare, and what is rare becomes powerful. Scrolling through social media, you'll see endless opinions, endless noise, but the person who speaks less and only when necessary carries more weight. Why? Because scarcity creates value. Plato said wise men speak because they have something to say, fools because they have to say something. Silence separates the wise from the foolish. When silence speaks louder than words, there are moments in life when silence is the loudest answer. When someone insults you, silence says your words are beneath me. When gossip surrounds you, silence says I don't feed small fires. When others try to provoke you, silence says I'm not owned by your chaos. Silence becomes your shield. It preserves your energy. It leaves others questioning themselves, and it builds an aura of calm strength around you. The discipline of silence. Of course, silence isn't easy. Our pride wants to defend itself. Our ego wants to be heard. But wisdom lies in knowing when to hold back. Try this the next time you're provoked. Resist the urge to respond immediately. Sit with the silence. Let it stretch. Notice how uncomfortable it makes others and how freeing it feels for you. At first, it will feel unnatural. You'll want to break it. But with practice, silence becomes your ally. You'll find that many conflicts dissolve not through clever arguments, but through the absence of them. Why silence is rare and powerful. Here's the truth: most people can't handle silence because it forces them to face themselves. That's why they avoid it. They fill every space with chatter. every pause with noise. But if you can handle silence, if you can sit in it, embrace it, use it, you become rare. And rare is always valuable. People will notice. They'll wonder, why doesn't he react? Why doesn't she defend herself? Why does nothing seem to shake them? And in that wondering, they give you power. So remember, this silence is not the absence of strength. It is the highest form of it. Anyone can shout, anyone can argue, anyone can fill the air with words, but only the disciplined can remain silent, calm, and composed in the face of chaos. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, the best answer to anger is silence, because silence cannot be twisted, it cannot be misquoted. It cannot be used against you. It is the ultimate shield. So the next time someone tries to provoke you, resist the urge to answer. Let silence do the work. Watch how quickly it disarms them. Watch how much stronger you feel for not giving away your power. This is why silence is a weapon. Quiet, sharp, unstoppable. Wield it, and you'll discover a presence so powerful it cannot be ignored. 4. Freedom from approval. Why does it sting so much when someone disrespects us? Why does it matter when strangers on the internet mock us, or when colleagues at work fail to acknowledge our effort? At first glance, it seems small. Yet deep inside, it cuts deep because most of us are chained to one of the oldest prisons in human history, the need for approval. The leash of approval from childhood. We are trained to seek validation. A gold star from the teacher, a pat on the back from our parents, applause from the crowd. Approval feels good, it lights up the brain like a drug. And just like a drug, it becomes addictive. The problem, what gives you pleasure also gives others control. If applause lifts you, then criticism destroys you. If approval makes you feel alive, then disapproval leaves you hollow. Marcus Aurelius saw this trap clearly. He wrote, "It never ceases to amaze me we all love ourselves more than other people, but care more about their opinion than our own." Isn't that madness? You already know yourself better than anyone alive, yet you hand over your peace to people who don't even understand your story. Approval is a leash, and every time you chase it, you tighten the chain. Why chasing approval weakens you. When you live for approval, you live reactively. You speak not what you truly believe, but what you think others want to hear. You act not from your values, but from the crowd's expectations. And the tragedy is this: the applause you crave today will vanish tomorrow. Think of social media. You post something, it gets likes. For a moment, you feel alive. But hours later, the likes fade, and you need another hit. The cycle never ends. The Stoics knew this truth long before smartphones. If your worth rises and falls with public opinion, you are fragile, you are breakable, you are not free. Plato once said, "The man who has a good character does not need the approval of others." Real freedom begins when you stop needing constant applause to confirm what you already know, that you are enough. Detachment from applause. Detachment doesn't mean ignoring people. It doesn't mean becoming cold or arrogant. True detachment means you care about people, but you don't need them to define you. When someone praises you, you appreciate it, but you don't inflate. When someone criticizes you, you listen, but you don't collapse. You remain steady, anchored in your own judgment. This steadiness commands respect. People can sense when you are not desperate for approval. It makes you rare. And rarity, again, is power. Why people respect the detached. Have you noticed how much more respect we give to people who are authentic? Those who don't bend themselves just to be liked. Think of artists who refused to follow trends but created their own path. Think of leaders who made unpopular choices because they aligned with their values. At first, they were mocked. But later, the same world that rejected them admired them. Socrates lived this truth. He faced ridicule, trial, even death because he refused to conform to Athens' approval. He could have chosen silence to save his life. Instead, he chose integrity. His freedom lay not in survival, but in living true to himself. That is the paradox when you stop chasing approval. You eventually gain a deeper respect than applause could ever give you. The prison of performance approval creates performers, not people. When you live for applause, you start living on stage. Every word is calculated, every move rehearsed. You stop being yourself. You become a role, a mask, an actor in someone else's script. But Stoicism calls you back to yourself. The Stoic asks, is this action aligned with my values? Is this true to my reason, or am I just performing for the crowd? When you start filtering your life through that lens, you stop wasting energy on applause. You start living deliberately. The courage to be misunderstood. Here's the uncomfortable truth if you choose authenticity. You will be misunderstood. People will criticize you. Some will mock you. Others will walk away. That's the price of freedom. But freedom is worth the price. Think of every person who achieved greatness: philosophers, artists, scientists, leaders. Almost all of them were misunderstood in their time. Their ideas were too different, their actions too bold, their vision too clear. If they had lived for approval, they would have bent themselves into mediocrity. Instead, they stood firm, and history proved them right. The question is, do you have the courage to walk the same path? Approval versus respect. Here's another paradox: when you stop needing approval, people respect you more. Why? Because approval seekers are predictable. They bend, they shift, they mold themselves for attention. But the person who stands firm, who doesn't flinch, who isn't desperate, that person is magnetic. People trust them because their worth doesn't depend on flattery. Plato called it the greatest wealth to live content with little. And what's little if not living content with yourself? Without needing endless applause, approval fades. Respect lasts. Practical ways to break free. How do you escape the approval trap? Here are a few Stoic practices. 1. Journal your values. Every morning, write down what matters to you, not to others, to you. When you know your compass, you stop drifting toward every applause. 2. Practice small risks. Say no to something you normally say yes to, just to avoid disappointing people. Watch how liberating it feels. 3. Detach from praise. When someone praises you, pause before letting it inflate your ego. Say to yourself, this is pleasant, but it doesn't define me. 4. Detach from criticism. When someone criticizes you, ask, is there truth here? If yes, use it. If not, discard it. But don't let it shake you. 5. Rehearse misunderstanding. Remind yourself, I will be criticized today. Marcus Aurelius began many mornings with that reminder. It prepared him for rejection and therefore freed him from its sting. The strength of standing alone. Seneca once observed, "He who is brave is free." Bravery in this context doesn't mean charging into battle. It means standing alone when the crowd demands conformity. It means walking your path even when others disapprove. When you reach this place, you no longer bend to every voice. You no longer beg for recognition. You move through life steady, anchored, untouchable. And, ironically, that's when people start giving you the recognition you no longer seek. Because authenticity attracts more deeply than performance ever could. So here's the question: are you living for applause, or are you living for truth? The applause feels good, but it fades quickly. The truth may cost you approval, but it sets you free. Marcus Aurelius, carrying the weight of an empire, still reminded himself daily not to be owned by the crowd's opinions. If he, the emperor of Rome, needed that reminder, so do we. Approval is a leash. Detachment is freedom. Choose wisely, because the moment you stop needing everyone's applause, you stop performing and you start living. 5. Failure and pressure as teachers. Failure, pressure. Two words that most people spend their entire lives running from. They treat failure as death and pressure as punishment. But the Stoic does not fear either, because the Stoic knows failure is information and pressure is preparation. Together, they are the twin teachers of strength. Why failure breaks some but builds others. Think of two people facing the same setback. They both start businesses. They both fail. One collapses, telling himself, "I'm worthless. I can't recover." The other shrugs, takes notes, learns the lesson, and tries again, stronger, sharper, wiser. What's the difference? Not the failure itself. The difference is attachment. The first person attaches failure to identity. I failed, therefore I am a failure. The second detaches failure from identity. I failed. But I am not failure itself. I simply gathered data. Seneca said we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And this is nowhere more obvious than in failure. The event is temporary, but the story you attach to it, that's what haunts you. Detach the story. Keep the lesson. And suddenly, failure is not an ending. It's training. Failure as feedback. Thomas Edison famously said after countless unsuccessful experiments, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." That's Stoic wisdom disguised as science. Every failure is feedback. Every setback is a signal. Instead of crying over what didn't work, the Stoic asks, "What can I learn? What can I improve? How does this sharpen me?" Life is a series of experiments. Failure is simply data. The only real failure is refusing to learn. Why pressure reveals character. Now, let's talk about pressure. Pressure is life's spotlight. It doesn't create strength or weakness, it reveals what's already there. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of Rome, faced wars, plagues, betrayal, endless responsibilities. He lived under pressure that would crush most of us. And yet, he wrote calmly in his meditations, "You must build up your life action by action, and be content if each one achieves its goal as far as possible." Notice the wisdom pressure didn't break him because he didn't expect ease. He expected resistance, and because he expected it, he prepared for it. Epictetus echoed the same truth. It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Pressure is simply the stage where your reactions are revealed. The soldier's lesson. Think of a soldier. He doesn't wait until battle to train. He runs drills every day, rehearsing until discipline becomes second nature. When the bullets fly, he doesn't panic. He doesn't rely on luck. He relies on preparation. Life works the same way. The small irritations you face daily, the traffic, the arguments, the setbacks are drills. They're your training ground. How you handle them prepares you for the greater pressures ahead. If you collapse at small irritations, how will you handle true storms? But if you train calmness daily, then when chaos arrives, you'll already be steady. The discipline of anticipation. The Stoics had a practice called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. They would imagine hardships before they arrived, not to live in fear, but to train their minds. Seneca wrote, "The man who has anticipated the coming of troubles takes away their power when they arrive." When you expect storms, storms don't shock you. When you rehearse loss, loss doesn't destroy you. By facing hardship in the mind, you weaken its sting in reality. Pressure as a mirror. Here's the truth. Pressure is a mirror. It reflects back the preparation you've done or haven't done. If you've trained avoidance, pressure reveals fragility. If you've trained patience, pressure reveals calm. If you've trained discipline, pressure reveals strength. Carl Jung explained that the unconscious will always rise in moments of stress. That's why people say things in anger or fear that they later regret they haven't trained their shadows. Under pressure, the unexamined self takes control. But if you've done the inner work, reflection, restraint, self-discipline, then under pressure, your best self emerges. The iron law of growth. Just as muscles grow by facing resistance, the mind grows by facing difficulty. No resistance, no growth. No pressure, no strength. Think of athletes. They don't improve by lifting what is easy, they improve by lifting what is heavy. Life works the same way. Pressure is the weight that strengthens your spirit. Marcus Aurelius put it perfectly. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. The obstacle is not separate from the path. It is the path. Failure as the gateway to resilience. Every great figure you admire, philosopher, athlete, leader, artist has failed, and not once, dozens of times, hundreds of times. The difference is not that they avoided failure, but that they reframed it. To them, failure wasn't the end of the story. It was simply a rough draft of success. Each setback carved wisdom into their character. Each failure hardened their resilience. Resilience is born not from avoiding pain, but from using it. Practical Stoic exercises. Here are ways to embrace failure and pressure the Stoic way. 1. Reframe failure. When you fail, ask, "What is this teaching me?" Write it down. Make failure your feedback loop. 2. Practice small discomforts. Choose daily discomforts, wake early. Take a cold shower, hold your tongue in argument. These prepare you for bigger pressures. 3. Praise. Premeditate evils. Imagine losses before they come, not to despair, but to weaken their power. 4. Use pressure as training. When life feels overwhelming, remind yourself, this is my gym, this is my training ground. 5. Detach from outcome. Focus on process, not results. Success and failure are outcomes. You can't always control them, but you can always control your effort. Failure plus pressure is the path to mastery. Failure gives you feedback. Pressure tests your preparation. Together, they form the two most powerful teachers of self-mastery. Most people avoid them, and so they remain fragile. But those who embrace them, who lean into failure as data and pressure as training, become unshakable. So, when life hands you failure, don't collapse. Ask, what data have I just gained? When life puts you under pressure, don't resist. Remind yourself, this is training. This is my proving ground. Because in the end, both failure and pressure are not punishments, they are gifts. They strip away illusions. They reveal your true self. They prepare you for greater battles. And the Stoic knows without them, you will never grow. With them, you become untouchable. 6. Battles in the mind. Close your eyes for a moment and think about this. How many of your greatest struggles were not with the outside world, but with your own mind? How many sleepless nights were not caused by real events, but by imagined ones? How many arguments have you had alone in your head, replaying words that were spoken hours, even years ago? The Stoics knew this truth well. Our greatest battles are rarely outside of us. They are inside, in the fortress of the mind. The enemy within. Seneca warned us we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. What did he mean? That most of our suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our thoughts about them. You imagine failure before it happens and suffer twice, once in imagination, once in reality. You relive insults that are long over and suffer them again. Even when the other person has forgotten, you worry about the future endlessly, only to find most of what you feared never comes to pass. We are haunted not by life itself, but by the stories we tell ourselves about life. The loop of overthinking. The human mind is a storyteller, constantly weaving narratives. Something small happens. A strange look from a colleague, a pause in someone's reply, and the mind creates an entire novel. They must hate me. I must have offended them. I probably embarrassed myself. Hours later, you're still replaying the moment, turning it into evidence of your inadequacy. Yet in reality, maybe that colleague was simply distracted. Maybe that pause was nothing at all. This is the trap, overthinking. And overthinking is the enemy of peace. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself, "Today I escaped anxiety," or no, I discarded it because it was within me, in my own perceptions, not outside. Notice his choice of words, discarded it. Anxiety isn't something that captures you, it's something you carry. And because you carry it, you can also put it down. The tyranny of what if. The mind loves to torture us with two little words. What if? What if I fail? What if they reject me? What if I lose everything? But the Stoic knows what if is wasted energy. Epictetus said man is not worried by real problems so much as by his imagined anxieties about real problems. Your mind is capable of inventing 10,000 catastrophes, yet how many of them actually come true? Very few. And yet, by living in what if, you experience the pain of disasters that never happen. Worry is interest paid on a debt that never comes due. Training the inner citadel. The Stoics often spoke of the inner citadel, a fortress within the self that cannot be breached by outside forces. The only way it falls is if you open the gates from within. Building this citadel means training your mind to separate reality from imagination, to ask in every moment, is this happening, or am I inventing it? If it's happening, respond with reason. If it's not happening, discard it. This practice transforms your mind from a battlefield into a stronghold. The power of perspective. Marcus Aurelius used perspective as a weapon. He would remind himself daily to zoom out, to see events not as overwhelming catastrophes, but as small moments in the vastness of time. Consider, for example, the times of Vespasian. You'll see all the same things: people marrying, raising children, getting sick, dying, waging war, celebrating, trading, farming, flattering, suspecting, plotting, hoping, loving, envying, clutching, scheming. And that life is over, gone. What was his point? That the things which consume us today will one day vanish, forgotten. The battles in our mind are often battles over illusions. When you zoom out, most of what torments you shrinks into nothing. Why mental discipline outweighs external control. We spend so much time trying to control the world, people, events, outcomes. But the Stoics knew the world will always be unpredictable. Control is fragile. What endures is mental discipline, the ability to meet whatever comes with calm. Epictetus taught his students the dichotomy of control: focus only on what is within your control. Let go of the rest, and what is always within your control. Your judgments, your thoughts, your inner narrative. Control that, and you win the only battle that truly matters. Here are exercises the Stoics would recommend to win the inner battles. 1. Daily journaling. At night, reflect. What did I worry about today that didn't actually happen? What can I release tomorrow? 2. View from above. Imagine rising above the earth, looking down at your life from the stars. How small do your worries look now? 3. Present focus. Anchor yourself in the now. Ask, is this problem real in this exact moment, or only in my mind? 4. Thought auditing. When caught in mental loops, stop and ask, what story am I telling myself? Is it true? 5. Limit what ifs. Replace. What if this goes wrong with, what if I handle it, or what if I grow from it? The battle with the self. Carl Jung observed that until we make the unconscious conscious, it will direct our lives and we will call it fate. This is the hidden battle, the fight not with external enemies, but with the unexamined parts of ourselves. Anger, envy, insecurity, fear. These are not monsters outside. They are shadows within. And when you don't face them, they rule you silently. The Stoic, however, looks inward daily, not to suppress but to understand. To see anger rising and say, I see you, but you do not own me. To feel fear stirring and reply, you may exist, but you will not control my actions. This is the essence of self-mastery, not the absence of emotions, but the refusal to be enslaved by them. The freedom of mental clarity. Imagine a life where you no longer rehearse imaginary arguments, no longer replay old failures, no longer live in the anxiety of what if. Imagine waking up each day, fully present, unburdened by illusions. That is the freedom. Stoicism offers mental clarity, the ability to distinguish between reality and imagination, and to choose peace over panic. Marcus Aurelius captured this clarity beautifully. If you are troubled by external things, it is not they that disturb you, but your own judgment of them. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now. Right now, not tomorrow, not next year, right now. So let me ask you, how many of your battles exist only in your head? How many sleepless nights are you spending fighting shadows that don't even exist? The Stoics invite you to lay down those weapons, to stop waging war against illusions, to reclaim the fortress of your mind. Because in the end, the outside world can hurt you only once, but your mind, left untrained, will hurt you 1,000 times over. Train your mind, build your citadel, and you'll discover a peace so unshakable, no storm can touch it. The greatest battle is not out there, it is in here. And victory comes not from conquering the world, but from conquering yourself. 7. Criticism and insults. There's a moment we've all faced. Someone insults you, mocks you, criticizes you, whether to your face, behind your back, or online for the world to see. Your chest tightens, your pride burns. You want to fire back, to defend yourself, to win. But here's the truth. The Stoics understood an insult has no power unless you grant it power. Criticism is only a wound if you choose to pick it up and carry it. Epictetus gave a timeless analogy when someone insults you. It's like they've delivered a package to your doorstep. You don't have to open it. You don't have to accept it. You can leave it outside, untouched, unclaimed. But most people do the opposite. They rip open the package, clutch the insult to their chest, and replay it endlessly. They take ownership of words that never belong to them. The Stoic sees the insult for what it is, a reflection of the other person, not of themselves. Why insults say more about them than you? Criticism often reveals the critic more than the target. A bitter person criticizes joy. An insecure person mocks confidence. A jealous person attacks success. Seneca reminded us, what need is there to weep over parts of life? The whole of it calls for tears. In other words, people lash out because they are already suffering. Their insults are not daggers. They are cries for help disguised as hostility. When you understand this, you stop taking insults personally. You stop letting someone else's pain become your prison. The power of indifference. Marcus Aurelius practiced indifference to insults. He wrote in his Meditations, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after, and the truth never harmed anyone." Notice the distinction. If criticism is true, accept it, it's a gift. If it's false, discard it, it's worthless. Either way, you remain unharmed. This is indifference. Not arrogance, not denial, simply the refusal to be controlled by someone else's opinion. The trap of defensiveness. Why do insults sting so much? Because the ego demands defense. Someone calls you weak, and suddenly you feel the need to prove your strength. Someone mocks your intelligence, and you scramble to prove your cleverness. But here's the paradox. The more you defend yourself, the more power you give the insult. The critic has already succeeded because they made you dance to their tune. The strongest response is often no response. Silence, indifference, walking away. Because nothing unsettles a critic more than seeing their words fail to move you. Why criticism is inevitable. Here's a Stoic guarantee: if you live boldly, you will be criticized. If you speak truth, you will be attacked. If you stand out, someone will try to drag you down. Seneca said, "I judge you unfortunate because you have never lived through misfortune. You have passed through life without an opponent. No one can ever know what you are capable of, not even you." Criticism is proof that you're alive, that you're moving, that you matter. A life without criticism is a life lived so small, no one notices you at all. Socrates, one of the wisest men of Athens, was mocked endlessly. He was called foolish, ugly, corrupting to the youth. Instead of defending himself with outrage, he calmly asked questions. He turned insults into lessons. When put on trial, he refused to beg for approval. He chose truth over popularity, integrity over survival. His calm acceptance of criticism and even of death made him immortal in history. Would he have been remembered if he had collapsed under the weight of insults? No. His greatness was forged in how he met them. Criticism is free feedback. Here's a radical Stoic reframe. Criticism is free feedback. If someone points out a flaw and they're wrong, ignore it. If they're right, you just gained insight without paying a dime. Either way, you win. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." By the same logic, if criticism is not right, discard it. If it is true, use it. But never let it wound you. Modern battlegrounds online. Criticism today. Insults and criticism are amplified by the internet. A single post can invite thousands of opinions, some supportive, some brutal. If you attach your peace to those voices, you will live in chains. But the Stoic way remains timeless. Don't let strangers you will never meet become the masters of your emotions. A nameless critic online doesn't deserve your energy. Ask yourself, will this matter in 10 days, 10 years, almost always? The answer is no. Practical Stoic practices for handling criticism. 1. Pause before reacting. When insulted, don't answer immediately. Let the heat pass. Most insults die on their own if you don't feed them. 2. Ask, is it true? If yes, adjust. If no, discard. Either way, you stay calm. 3. Remember the source. Consider who the critic is. Would you trade lives with them? If not, why give their opinion power? 4. Practice indifference. Train yourself daily to ignore small slights. They are reps in the gym of the mind. 5. Detach the ego. Remind yourself your worth does not shrink or grow because of someone's words. Why calmness wins every time. Imagine two people facing insults. One erupts, screams, lashes out only to look foolish. The other smiles, stays silent, walks away. Who looks stronger? Who commands more respect? Always the second, because calmness is unshakable. Indifference is impenetrable. Critics thrive on reaction. Starve them, and they wither. So the next time someone insults you, remember the insult is not yours unless you pick it up. The criticism is not a wound unless you let it pierce your mind. Seneca advised, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Don't mirror the insult. Don't feed the critic. Stay above it. Because here's the ultimate truth: no one can truly insult you. They can throw words, but only you decide whether those words land. Only you choose whether to open the package at your door. And when you refuse, when you smile, stay calm and walk away. You prove the deepest Stoic lesson of all, that nothing outside of you has power over you, unless you grant it. No, Because here's the ultimate truth: no one can truly insult you. They can throw words, but only you decide whether those words land. Only you choose whether to open the package at your door. And when you refuse, when you smile, stay calm and walk away. You prove the deepest Stoic lesson of all, that nothing outside of you has power over you, unless you grant it. And so, my friend, as we reach the quiet end of this journey, let us pause together and breathe deeply, letting the weight of all these lessons settle gently in the heart. We've walked through storms and silence, through failure and resilience, through the sharp edges of criticism and the soft armor of detachment. And what do we discover in the end? That nothing outside of us has the power to truly disturb our inner fortress unless we grant it permission. Picture yourself now, calm, steady, like a rock unmoved by waves. The world may roar, voices may rise, pressure may press in, but you remain whole. Because your peace is yours, your strength is yours, and your response is always yours. Even as you drift into your evening or your rest, remember, the mind will try to replay battles, but you no longer need to fight them. The heart will feel the sting of words, but you no longer need to carry them. Life will hand you obstacles, but each one is only another stone that paves your path. So let your breath slow, let your body soften, and let your spirit rest in the truth that you already carry the calmness you seek. Nothing is missing, nothing is broken. You are enough, exactly as you are, here, in this moment. And if these words have brought you peace tonight, if they've given you strength or stirred a thought worth carrying, I invite you to stay connected, perhaps by subscribing channel, or leaving a comment, or simply affirming to yourself, I am unshaken, I am free, I am whole. Now, close your eyes, release the day, and carry this calm with you. Whisper it quietly to yourself. Nothing bothers me, nothing moves me. I remain at peace. Good night. Sweet dreams.